There comes a moment in life when everything that once felt certain begins to crack. Not all at once, not dramatically. Just small fractures at first. The job that once made you proud now feels suffocating. The relationships you swore you needed start to feel misaligned. The goals you chased for years suddenly feel empty in your hands. You wake up one morning and something is different. The world hasn't changed, but you have. And that shift feels terrifying. It feels like loss. It feels like confusion. It feels like your entire identity is dissolving. Most people don't talk about this stage. They show you the glow-up, the success story, the triumphant comeback, but no one shows you the silent nights where you question everything. No one shows you the loneliness of outgrowing a version of yourself that once kept you safe. No one prepares you for the grief that comes when you realize the life you built no longer fits the person you're becoming. This is the moment where many turn back. They shrink. They force themselves back into old patterns, old environments, old roles, because at least they're familiar. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar freedom. The human mind is wired for certainty, not expansion. It would rather keep you comfortable than allow you to evolve. But what if this discomfort isn't destruction? What if this is initiation? The great psychologist Carl Jung believed that before we become who we truly are, we must confront the collapse of who we thought we were. He called it individuation, the journey of becoming whole. And it doesn't begin with clarity. It begins with chaos. It begins when the mask starts slipping. When the role you've been playing your whole life suddenly feels too tight to breathe in. You are taught who to be, taught what success looks like, taught what's acceptable, admirable, safe. Piece by piece, you built an identity from expectations. Your parents, your cultures, your friends, societies. You learn to adapt, to perform, to earn approval. And for a long time, that performance worked. It protected you. It helped you belong. But growth has a ruthless quality to it. It does not ask for permission. It arrives when you're ready or not. And when it does, it strips away illusions. That's why transformation feels like losing your world. Because in a way, you are. You're losing the version of yourself that survived by fitting in. You're losing the dreams that were never truly yours. You're losing the comfort of predictability. And your mind panics. It whispers, go back, fix it, make everything normal again. But deep down, you know something irreversible has begun. You cannot unsee what you now see. You cannot unknow what you now know. There is a strange grief in awakening. You mourn the person you used to be, even if that person was limited, even if that person was small. Because that identity carried memories, attachments, familiarity. Letting it go feels like stepping into darkness without a map. But here's the truth that will change everything. The collapse is not your enemy. It is your threshold. Every meaningful transformation in history, in mythology, in psychology, follows the same pattern: breakdown before breakdown. The caterpillar dissolves before it becomes the butterfly. The seed splits before it becomes the tree. The old structure must weaken for the new one to emerge. You are not falling apart. You are shedding. And shedding is not comfortable. It burns. It isolates. It disorients. The reason it feels like your world is ending is because the world you built was constructed from who you used to be. And when you evolve internally, the external structure must shift. Some relationships will fade. The reason transformation cuts so deeply is because it threatens the very structure that has been running your life for years. Your identity, not your soul, not your potential, your identity. The image you've built, protected, defended, and presented to the world. And when that image begins to crack, It feels like psychological death. Your ego does not care about your third, destiny. It cares about survival. It cares about predictability. It cares about keeping the story consistent. So when you begin to evolve, when your desires change, when your standards rise, when your tolerance for mediocrity disappears, the ego sounds an alarm. It whispers, "This isn't safe. This isn't who we are. Go back." But who is that we? For years, you've been operating through what Carl Jung called the persona, the mask you wear to function in society. The agreeable one, the strong one, the responsible one, the achiever, the peacemaker, the rebel. Whatever role earned you acceptance, protection, or validation, that role slowly became your identity. And at first, it worked. It helped you belong. It helped you navigate expectations. It helped you avoid rejection. But here's the cost no one warns you about. If you live behind the mask long enough, you forget there's a face beneath it. Transformation begins the moment that mask starts to suffocate you. You feel it when you say yes, but mean no. You feel it when you succeed, but feel empty. You feel it when you're surrounded by people, yet internally alone. That discomfort is not weakness. It is awareness breaking through performance. And awareness is dangerous, because once you see the mask, you can't unsee it. This is why growth feels violent. It's not just change. It's the demolition of a false self. The verse, ion of you that learned to be what was needed instead of what was true. The version of you that chased approval instead of alignment. The version of you that prioritized being liked over being real. Letting that version die feels like betrayal. You might even feel guilt. Why am I changing? Why can't I just be grateful? Why can't I stay who I was? Because you were never meant to stay who you were. Growth demands evolution. Evolution demands surrender. And surrender feels like loss before it feels like freedom. Your nervous system will resist. Familiar discomfort feels safer than unfamiliar expansion. Even if your current life drains you, at least it's predictable. At least you know the rules. Stepping into a new identity, one with higher standards, deeper authenticity, stronger boundaries, feels uncertain. And uncertainty triggers fear. But here's the truth that separates those who transform from those who stagnate. Fear is not a stop sign, it's a threshold. The pain you're feeling is the tension between who you were trained to be and who you're meant to become. Read that again. That tension is sacred. It means your internal truth is stronger than your external conditioning. When you start setting boundaries, some people will resist, not because you're wrong, but because your growth disrupts their comfort. When you stop shrinking, insecure environments will pop, shay back. When you outgrow old ambitions, people who are still chasing them may call you confused. Let them. The death of the false self is not graceful. It's messy. It's disorienting. You will question yourself. You will doubt your decisions. You will wonder if you're sabotaging your own stability. But understand this. Stability built on suppression is not stability. It's containment. And you were not built to be contained. You were built to expand. Every powerful transformation requires a funeral, not of your potential, but of your limitations, not of your strength, but of your pretending. The old identity must collapse so the authentic one can emerge. You cannot carry both. You cannot become who you're meant to be while clinging to who you had to be. This is your moment of decision. Will you protect the mask? Or will you protect your truth? Because protecting the mask will keep you acceptable. Protecting your truth will make you powerful. The ego fears irrelevance, But your soul craves authenticity. And the more you honor that inner pull, the quieter the ego becomes, not overnight, not easily, but gradually, steadily, powerfully. You are not losing yourself, you are losing the version of yourself that was built from fear. And that loss is not tragedy. There is a moment in every real transformation when the darkness rises, not the dramatic kind you see in movies, not chaos on the outside, but something far more unsettling, the confrontation with parts of yourself you've spent your entire life avoiding, the anger you buried to be nice, the ambition you suppressed to avoid outshining others, the resentment you swallowed to keep the peace, the insecurity you masked with confidence, the truth you silenced because it made people uncomfortable. This is the shadow. And according to Carl Jung, the shadow is not evil. It is simply the rejected parts of you, the traits, emotions, impulses, and potentials that didn't fit the image you were trying to maintain. Everything you were told was too much, not enough, unacceptable, or dangerous, got pushed into the background of your psyche. But what you suppress does not disappear. It waits, and eventually, when you begin to grow, it demands to be seen. This is why transformation can feel chaotic. You are not just building a new future, you're excavating your own unconscious. Old patterns resurface. Emotional triggers intensify. You react in ways that surprise you. You think, why am I feeling this? I thought I was past this. But growth doesn't bypass the shadow. It integrates it. What you resist will control you. If you suppress anger, it becomes passive aggression. If you suppress ambition, it becomes envy. If you suppress vulnerability, it becomes elation. If you suppress truth, it becomes anxiety. The shadow does not sabotage you. It signals imbalance. And here's the powerful shift. The parts of you that feel darkest often carry your greatest strength. That anger you fear, it may be your boundary trying to protect you. That ambition you downplay, it may be your calling demanding expansion. That jealousy you judge, it may be revealing what you truly desire. When you begin to see your shadow, not as an enemy, but as untapped energy, everything changes. Most people spend their lives running from discomfort. They distract themselves. They numb themselves. They blame others. They curate an image of positivity while chaos brews beneath the surface. But real transformation requires courage, the courage to turn inward and ask, what am I avoiding? This question alone can change your life, because when you identify the trait you criticize most in others, you often find a reflection of something unresolved within yourself. When someone's confidence irritates you, maybe you've silenced your own. When someone's honesty feels aggressive, maybe you've been suppressing yours. When someone's success triggers insecurity, maybe you've been shrinking your potential. Your triggers are teachers. They point directly to your shadow. And the moment you stop projecting and start owning, you reclaim power. This is not about indulging destructive impulses. It's about integrating them consciously. It's about saying, yes, I have anger, and I will channel it into assertiveness. Yes, I have ambition, and I will use it to build. Yes, I crave recognition, and I will earn it through growth. The goal is not to become flawless. The goal is to become whole. Wholeness is power. When you deny parts of yourself, you fragment your energy. When you integrate them, you consolidate strength. Suddenly, you are not fighting yourself internally. You're aligned, focused, unapologetic. But integration requires brutal honesty. It requires sitting alone with your thoughts without distraction. It requires journaling the emotions you'd rather ignore. It requires admitting when you're wrong. It requires acknowledging desire without shame. It requires recognizing that you are capable of both light and darkness, and choosing responsibility anyway. That's maturity. That's transformation. The shadow is not proof that you're broken. It's proof that you're human. And the more you explore it consciously, the less it controls you unconsciously. Instead of exploding in rage, you communicate boundaries. Instead of sabotaging opportunities, you confront fear. Instead of resenting others, you pursue your own expansion. This is how breakdown becomes breakthrough. This is how chaos becomes clarity. The parts of you that scare you most are often the parts holding your next level of growth. The confidence you envy, the boldness you judge, the intensity you suppress. They are not threats, they are invitations. Stop trying to be only light. Light without shadow is fragile. Real power comes from integration, from knowing your depths and choosing discipline anyway. Your transformation demands courage, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that looks inward instead of outward, the kind that faces truth instead of running from it. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. The darkness stops feeling like an enemy. There is a stage in transformation that no one prepares you for. It's not the collapse of the old self. It's not the confrontation with your shadow. It's what comes after. The silence, the uncertainty, the space where nothing feels solid anymore. You've outgrown who you used to be, but you haven't fully become who you are meant to be, and that space in between can feel unbearable. This is the void, the in-between season where your old identity no longer fits, but your new identity hasn't fully formed. The friendships that once felt natural now feel strained. The ambitions that once drove you feel hollow. The routines that once structured your life feel misaligned. You look around and think, where do I belong now? And the most dangerous temptation in this phase is rushing. Rushing into a new relationship to avoid loneliness. Rushing into a new career move to avoid uncertainty. Rushing into a new identity just to feel stable again. But transformation cannot be rushed. The void is not a mistake. It is a recalibration. Your mind craves clarity. It wants a label, a plan, a 5-year blueprint. But growth does not unfold on your timeline. It unfolds on the timeline of alignment. And sometimes alignment requires stillness. The caterpillar doesn't flap imaginary wings inside the cocoon. It dissolves completely. Its old structure breaks down before something new reorganizes itself. That dissolution is not weakness. It is preparation. Right now, if you feel lost, you are not regressing. You are reorganizing. This phase will test your discipline more than your courage. When clarity disappears, discipline becomes your anchor. When motivation fluctuates, routine becomes your foundation. You may not know exactly who you're becoming yet, but you can decide how you show up daily. Wake up with intention. Move your body even when your mind feels heavy. Limit the voices that demand you stay the same. You don't need a perfect vision to take powerful action. You need commitment to growth, even in ambiguity. The void strips away distractions. It forces you inward, and inward is uncomfortable. You sit with your thoughts more. You question your choices. You replay conversations. You feel the weight of solitude. But solitude is not isolation. Isolation weakens you. Solitude refines you. This is where you learn who you are without external validation, without applause, without constant reassurance, without a clear scoreboard. Can you trust yourself without proof? Can you keep building when no one sees progress yet? Can you hold faith in the unseen version of you? That is strength. They mistake uncertainty for failure. They interpret confusion as incompetence. They assume discomfort means they took a wrong turn. But confusion is often the mind adjusting to expansion. You cannot think at the same level you once did when you are becoming someone new. Your standards are rising. Your awareness is deepening. Your tolerance for superficiality is shrinking. Of course, things feel unfamiliar. You are no longer operating from the same internal framework. This stage demands patience with power, not passive, waiting, active endurance. You keep showing up. You keep refining your habits. You keep learning. You keep protecting your energy, even when the external results are invisible. Neural pathways are rewiring. Emotional patterns are recalibrating. Old attachments are dissolving. Your internal world is reorganizing to support a stronger external one. And one day, almost suddenly, clarity begins to return. Not because you forced it, but because you earned it. The void is not empty, it is fertile. It is the soil where resilience grows. It is where you prove to yourself that you are not dependent on external structure to remain grounded. It is where you build self-trust, the most powerful currency you will ever possess. If you are in this season right now, do not panic. Do not retreat. Do not shrink yourself back into familiarity just to escape discomfort. Stand still in the uncertainty with confidence. Breathe through the ambiguity. Build quietly. Strengthen internally. Trust that this space is shaping you into someone who can carry greater responsibility, greater influence, greater impact. You are not stuck. You are stabilizing at a higher level. There comes a moment when you realize something profound. You were never meant to return to who you used to be. The old world felt familiar, yes. Predictable, yes. But it was built on survival, not truth. And once you've walked through the collapse, faced your shadow, and endured the void, there is no going back. There is only forward into rebirth. Rebirth is not loud. It doesn't always arrive with fireworks and applause. It arrives with clarity, with grounded confidence. Wit, a quiet but unshakable knowing, I am no longer who I was. And this time the shift doesn't feel like loss. It feels like alignment. You start noticing it in small ways. You say no without guilt. You walk away without drama. You pursue goals that genuinely excite you instead of impress others. Your energy feels cleaner. Your circle feels tighter. Your mind feels sharper. You are not reacting from fear anymore. You are responding from self-awareness. This is what Carl Jung meant when he spoke about becoming whole, not perfect. Whole, integrated, no longer split between who you are and who you pretend to be. No longer fighting yourself internally. No longer shrinking your truth to maintain comfort. Wholeness is power, because when you are whole, you are decisive. When you are whole, you are resilient. When you are whole, you don't crumble at criticism or inflate with praise. You move from internal stability, not external validation. And here is the ultimate realization. Transformation was never about becoming someone new. It was about removing what was false, the conditioning, the fear-based choices, the outdated narratives. What remains is you, refined. The fire didn't destroy you. It revealed you. Think about it. The breakdown felt like losing your world, because that world was constructed around an identity that no longer matched your evolution. But now, you are building consciously. You are choosing relationships that align with your values. You are setting standards that reflect self-respect. You are designing a life that supports your authenticity instead of suppressing it. That is rebirth. And rebirth requires responsibility. You can't blame your past anymore. You can't hide behind confusion. You can't pretend you don't know better. Awareness demands action. Growth demands consistency. You've seen what happens when you live unconsciously. Now you must choose differently. This is where many hesitate, because stepping fully into your new identity means letting go of excuses. It means owning your discipline. It means honoring your boundaries. It means walking away from what drains you without waiting for permission. But understand this: every time you choose alignment over approval, you strengthen your new foundation. Every time you speak truth, instead of staying silent, you reinforce your authenticity. Every time you invest in your growth, instead of numbing your discomfort, you compound your power. Rebirth is not a single moment. It is a series of courageous decisions, and the world will test you. Old patterns will try to resurface. Familiar dynamics will attempt to pull you back. Some people will prefer the version of you that was easier to control, easier to predict, easier to influence. Do not resent them, but do not regress for them either. You have crossed a threshold. Now you must protect your evolution. That means maintaining discipline when motivation fades. That means choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term comfort. That means remembering the pain of collapse whenever you are tempted to shrink again. You didn't endure the breakdown, the shadow, and the void just to rebuild the same limited life. You endured it to elevate, so step into it fully. Stand taller, speak clearer, move with intention. Stop apologizing for growth. Stop explaining your boundaries to those who benefit from you having none. Stop doubting the expansion you worked so hard to achieve. The world you are building now is not fragile. It is forged. Forged in introspection. Forged in discomfort. Forged in discomfort. Forged in discipline. And this time, it will not collapse at the first sign of pressure, because it is rooted in truth. You are not the same person who began this journey. You are sharper, stronger, more self-aware, more intentional. The transformation that once felt like losing everything has given you the only thing that truly matters: yourself. Now, honor that. You are thing to that. Live from that. Ambitions will lose meaning. Some environments will no longer tolerate your growth. That is not failure. That is alignment correcting itself. Right now, if you feel lost, confused, disconnected from who you used to be, understand this: you are standing at the edge of reinvention. This is the space where your old identity loosens its grip. This is the space where authenticity begins to whisper louder than approval. This is the space where you choose, shrink back into safety or step forward into truth. Transformation does not announce itself with comfort. It announces itself with disruption. So instead of asking, "Why is everything falling apart?" ask a more powerful question: who am I becoming?